People are going to sporting events that are bigger than this. This is a sophisticated, vaccinated crowd.
Sophisticated is code for very wealthy and Democrats. The peasants have a very different standard than the lords and ladies and royalty of unspecified gender who attend Barack Obama's birthday party. Happy birthday to Obama. He's the only person who gets to have a really big birthday party. Now listen, here's my feeling about birthday parties or parties of any sort at this point. It's a free country, do what you want. I myself would be happy to have a birthday party for my wife, for any of my relatives, maskless. As you know, I don't care. My feeling at this point is that every adult in the United States, every person in the United States above the age of 12 has had the ability to get the vaccine. Once you've had the vaccine, your chances of dying from COVID-19 drop down to very close to zero. If you get a breakthrough of the Delta variant and you're vaccinated, the high likelihood is that you're going to end up with a mild cold. And thus, if there's a party and somebody shows up unvaccinated, and that person gets infected by a vaccinated person, that one is on them. So on a pure principled level, I don't care whether Barack Obama has a maskless party. But the entire Democratic infrastructure has decided that for the sake of being a good American, you must mask up. You must. If you're a vaccinated person, you must put on that mask to protect everybody else. If you're a good, patriotic American, you would not hold a large party for your own 60th birthday. And you certainly wouldn't fly in your friends like John Kerry to come in maskless on a private jet in the middle of global warming, which, by the way, did happen. John Kerry did take a private jet to Barack Obama's party, and then everybody at the party took off the masks. And one of the DJs there made the unfortunate error of actually tweeting out the photos and then had to delete all the photos. Some of the footage was out there already, however, and things were unfortunately leaked to the public. I say unfortunately, even though it's actually quite fortunate, because I think it's quite important that the American people know that the elites who tell you that you need to mask up, the elites who tell you that life can never go back to normal, these same elites do not hold themselves to this same standard at all. And this has always been the case with the left. When it comes to the left, the people at the top of the echelon are not interested in abiding by the rules they promulgate for everybody else. The people at the top of the elites, the elitists in our society, the people in Hollywood, they will abide by the basic rules of success in the United States while ensuring that everybody else doesn't. And this is basically Charles Murray's book, Coming Apart. He talks about the fact that you have very liberal elites living off of Sunset Boulevard who promulgate social standards they themselves do not hold by. And so they become rich, and they do really well. And many of them are married, and many of them stay married. And then they promulgate values that everybody else holds by, and those people take those standards seriously, and they wreck their lives. Well, the same thing holds true when it comes to things, for example, like whether to have a maskless birthday party. You, the peasant, are not supposed to have a maskless birthday party. In fact, one of our writers over at Daily Wire, Ryan Saavedra, he tweeted out recently that his grandfather just died alone in the hospital of COVID because there had been all of these revised protocols that suggested you couldn't go in and visit a dying loved one who had COVID, whether you were vaccinated or whether you were not vaccinated, because after all, you might spread it to somebody. And so they died. So people are dying alone in the hospitals again. Meanwhile, Barack Obama is having a party. So this is where I start to get uptight. Not when somebody has a party. I don't care. I live in Florida. A lot of people having parties. What I care about is if you promulgate a standard where no one else is supposed to have a party, just like nobody else is supposed to take a private jet except for John Kerry, just like nobody else is supposed to hold by sort of traditional moral standards, apparently, except for many of the people in Hollywood who actually counterintuitively do. It's the same thing here. Everybody else is supposed to mask up and watch grandma die alone, but Barack Obama gets to have himself the big party with John Legend singing at the party and everybody partying without the masks. Here's a little bit of the footage. You can see in the background Barack Obama partying on stage. There he is, going at it. Really enjoying himself, hugging people on stage. And again, this is in an indoor scenario. I was reliably informed by the CDC, by Rochelle Walensky, by our most trusted physicians, by Dr. Anthony Fauci. You shouldn't be having events like this. I was told, and I was told by all the Democratic higher-ups. In fact, Barack Obama fibbed, and he said he was going to cancel the party, or at least wildly downgrade the size and scope of the party. And then, of course, he just quietly re-upped the party. And then all this information started emerging again. So you might think that at this point, the media would be somewhat critical of this. I mean, after all, Barack Obama is a pretty important person. He's the former president of the United States. And we've been informed that former presidents of the United States are not just important, they are the most important people. When Donald Trump puts out a statement on his email list, it immediately rockets around the internet because it's so damned important. Well, when Barack Obama has a maskless birthday party, you might assume that the media would be like, well, that's odd, right? I mean, that's worthy of coverage. Well, you would be wrong. Instead, you would have the CNN White House correspondent saying, it's different, guys. It's different because these are the sophisticated people. You are a rube. You're a person who has a 9-to-5 job, who still has to go to work. You're not somebody who became president of the United States and then made just a buttload of money after having been president of the United States by being a prominent politician. You like have a regular job and you need to go to work, but that's the problem. You're the problem. You peasant you. But Barack Obama's not a peasant. And the people at his parties, they are not the peasants. Right? The peasants have a very different standard than the lords and ladies and non-specified and royalty of unspecified gender who attend Barack Obama's birthday party. Here's the CNN White House correspondent noting that it's a different thing when Barack Obama does it than when you do it. You had a party in your own home for your kid's birthday? That was bad. But Barack Obama, he's turning 60. And let me just tell you, that dude deserves a big birthday party.
Other people said, this is really being overblown. They're following all the safety precautions. People are going to sporting events that are bigger than this. This is going to be safe. This is a sophisticated, vaccinated crowd. And this is just about optics. It's not about safety.
By sophisticated and vaccinated, what they mean, sophisticated is code for very wealthy and Democrats. That's what sophisticated means in White House correspondent for CNN language. That's what that means. Okay, now this has a pretty predictable effect. When all of the elites in a particular society decide that everybody is supposed to live one way and they are supposed to live another, this creates wild institutional distrust, but it also creates a standard where politicians are incentivized to pursue some of the dumbest policies ever. So when the media and the Democratic establishment say over and over and over again that masking is going to be the solution to the pandemic, when masking pretty obviously is not. Vaccination is the obvious solution to the pandemic. And at this point, the solution to the pandemic is let everybody live their own life and then bear the consequences of their own decision-making, which means that the government really has very little public policy role at this point at all. But it has bled down to the American people. And this is why this is a story, because Barack Obama and the rest of the Democratic Party and Joe Biden and Dr. Anthony Fauci and all of the various members of the Democratic establishment, the Lori Lightfoots of the world who said you couldn't get a haircut, but she needed her hair done. That was a very important thing. Or Nancy Pelosi, who said that you couldn't get a haircut maskless, but she definitely could. Or Mayor Muriel Bowser, she had to have a picture maskless with Dave Chappelle, like while everybody else was masking up. It was super duper important. You, the regular people, are supposed to change your life, not just for now, forever. And they've changed what the standard is supposed to be forever. They've set up this incentive structure. And this is what pisses me off. You convinced a huge number of Americans to believe in things that are not reality and not related to reality. You're scaring the hell out of people based on bad data. It's one thing to scare the hell out of the unvaccinated and say to them that you have a much higher chance of dying from COVID-19 than the vaccinated. That's true. I mean, now let's be real about this. The rate of death among young unvaccinated Americans remains very low. I mean, compared to any other disease like smallpox or any global pandemic that people have considered a mass killer in the past. The grand total number of Americans under the age of 30 or between the ages of 20 and 30 who have died in the United States is still just a couple of thousand people. I think it's like 2,500, 2,600 people, according to the CDC, as of last week. But you do have a much better chance of dying if you're unvaccinated than if you're vaccinated, for sure, for sure. Okay, but they're not just restricting their crazy standards to the unvaccinated, they're extending it to the vaccinated. They're basically saying you are supposed to be scared in perpetuity. Who's got two thumbs and wants you to like and subscribe?